Hello guys, welcome back to DarkHorse FM. While we're addressing video requests today, this video we're going to look at how to deal with injuries on Football Manager 2023. Currently, I'm in my medical center. If you don't know how to get to the medical center, it's always on the left-hand panel, I think beneath training, but if you don't have it or if you don't see it in your left-hand panel, depending on the skin that you're using, just go to training and it should be in the training session as well. You can find the medical center in the bottom right corner here. So you just go to medical center, the left-hand panel, and then dealing with injuries, you're going to have to start from here. The first thing you need to figure out when you're trying to address injury problems in your squad is to try to lower the intensity of the games that you're playing. That's a huge problem in Football Manager 2023 and in Football Manager in general, because the game kind of favors a high intensity play style. So if you're not pressing very high, you may not be winning so many games. And if you are pressing very high, you may be having injury problems like the way I have mine right now. So a lot of my players are on injury risk. But what you need to also be aware of is that this very high injury risk usually comes after a game, after a few games. So if you haven't had so many games in a while, like 2 to 3 days where you've played and you haven't yet had a fixture, maybe you've just been training, your injury risk is not going to be this high. This is just because I've finished a match right now. So my players have very high injury risk, because if we go on to play another game right now, there's a high chance that we're going to get injured. So the next thing I wanted to pay attention to is to look at this player here in Christopher Maseko. He's one of my very best players in my team, which is going to bring me to my second tip about dealing with injuries. You want to try to sign players that have very high natural fitness. Maseko, on the other hand, doesn't have high natural fitness, but somehow I find a way to play him in most games and take him off once in a while, maybe after 60 minutes if we're sure we're going to win the game, or if we're sure that the game is already lost. We try to take him off so he doesn't get injured. You can try to do that with some of your players as well, trying to find a balance. You don't always have to play one player throughout the season all 90 minutes. You have to find a way to sub players off, take players from the bench and bring them on. Try to find a balance so your players don't get overworked and don't get seriously fatigued. Most of these tips are fairly obvious, but it's one thing knowing what to do is another thing actually implementing it. So it's probably why I'm going to go over most of this, or why I'm going over these tips again with how to deal with injuries. And the next thing you want to do is to look at your team schedule. Okay, first of all, we're going to go into training sessions, and then this is the training schedule that we have here. We just finished the games against Orlando Pirates, like I mentioned. And if you look at your team's rest schedule here, in training sessions, just go all the way to the right on the top panel. You're going to see rest sessions right beside coaches. Just go on to click rest sessions, and then you find out what my team is doing. We're playing with double intensity, and my players would likely get injured. But what we're doing is, towards the end of the season, like now, is probably something I should have done a long time ago. Just go on to change this double intensity to normal intensity, and then try to reduce the injury risk that the players have, because by now my players should already be accustomed to my style of play. So there's no need for me to use double intensity to try and get my players to always aggressively train all the time. So if you notice that your players are getting too many injuries, try to drop this from double intensity on the full heart to normal intensity, and then maybe half intensity for this other heart here. And then the remaining sessions, you see, no gym or pitch, no pitch or gym work, no pitch or gym work for all the other red ones. And then this yellow here, find the balance between the two, but make sure you drop from double intensity to normal intensity, even as your players are getting too many injuries all the time. On the subject of lowering training intensity, you're going to look at your team schedule on the other side. Okay, not this schedule in training. So you go into the training and then go into the schedules in training, and then you're going to see that, okay, currently I do not have anything here, but I'm just going to pick one for example. And then you see tactical style of play. Let's say gegenpressing normal. This is the normal training session for gegenpressing. In case I was using a gegenpressing style of play, that's not what I'm doing, by the way. But just for an example, you're going to see that there's a lot of rest sessions in here at the bottom. So you want to likely have something like this to encourage your players to rest a lot more. And then I'm going to show you in the calendar what we normally have. And then looking at the next fixture that we're going on the list, we have a game against Cape Town Spurs. I'm looking for one that is quite interesting. Okay, let's lose a game where you're going to have a Wednesday fixture. Now, you see that right below here there's a lot of rest sessions, so try to include more rest sessions in your game and try not to get this bar too high. If I go on to add a session here in number 3 and then go to include another training session that says attacking, the bar goes all the way up. So that's not very good if you're trying to deal with injuries. So you're going to try to avoid things like this, and then just make sure you have your team resting a whole lot, getting enough rest before each game and after each game as well. The last tip I'm going to give you is something a lot of people may not think causes injuries, but I have to admit I feel it plays a role in your injury session. It's why my players don't get injured a lot. So if you go into your club info here, not club vision, club info, sorry. If you go into your club info and go into facilities, you're going to see that your club facilities, make sure that you have adequate or good facilities, good training facilities, good youth ratings, good, all this kind of stuff. But more importantly, if you go into your club stadium, the stadium is the very first, like name, then Nagash Empire. That's my stadium name, by the way. Just go and click in here, and then you're going to look at the pitch condition. You need to make sure that your pitch condition is at least semi-perfect. Ideally, you're going to want a perfect pitch condition, but if you can get it to be good or semi-perfect, I don't know if there's a word like semi-perfect in this case on Football Manager, but try to get your pitch to be perfect most of the time, or at least good, because if you have a poor pitch, your players are likely going to get injured. So try to encourage your board to improve the pitch pattern, improve the pitch wear, relay the pitch, anything you want to call it, and try to get your pitch conditions to be always perfect. And that way you're going to ensure that your players will not worry too much about injuries and can just go around playing their normal game without getting injured on their own ground. If you have any more questions regarding your player injuries or dealing with injuries of Football Manager, do let me know in the comment sections. I hope these normal tips that I gave to you was a bit helpful. I hope you can actually apply them and try to avoid getting injured on Football Manager, as hard as it's going to be for you to do that, but try your best. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you with more Football Manager videos like this. See you in the next video.